We'll start right away. We've already started. Adjusting a few things, just a minute. We'll get started in a minute. I had an insight. I'm going to share that insight today. A reasonably good insight, I thought. Very good indeed. Let's see if I can pass them on to you. This will happen in a minute. I'm showing you here. We'll start now. This insight that we have is always cool. I usually have it when I'm not having much going on. My head gets really hot. Okay, it's 8 p.m. in Brazil. Here it's 6 p.m. I'm on an adventure. And today is November 27th, 2024. Our live today will be, the name is Fruition, Metacognition, and Body Territory. But I will focus a lot on I and we are beliefs. It almost seems like we should say I and we are. No, you believing in me, you believing in us, is already a process of belief. And when it is belief, you already have a little bias in the belief. And that is what we are going to address carefully today. And before we begin, I have to give a little general review about mind and consciousness. Mind with consciousness, right? And the mind is precisely a deep sense that you have in the body and the position of your body in space. How the body can move in the space where you are and what you are feeling. Then it gives a mental configuration and the polarization of this body. You have the consciousness in relation, the reference of the body in relation to your feeling. And feeling is very variable. It is interoception, but there is a lot of feeling, heat, temperature in the body, tremors, pain, a lot of things. But well, this is important. Every belief you have, you're going to have bias. Every belief has bias. What is bias? It's a blind spot. It's a way that it's bad that you don't perceive things properly. It's a blind spot. So you can't deduce things very well because it's a blind spot. There's a belief, there's a blind spot. But we always have belief. And then I said the I and the we are also beliefs. And that's what we're going to address today. Before, when you were in the womb, if your mother had the habit of eating a lot of meat and fat, it will affect your internal metabolism and your DNA will undergo some methylation and you will have a digestive process with greater ease to digest meat and fat. If your mother ate more carbohydrates during that period, there will be a mechanism. You will have this process of carbohydrate digestion as soon as you are born. And look, as soon as you are born, your metabolism changes, which means that the human being who was born has already received a cultural influence even without knowing language, but has already received a cultural reference, of course, with food that the mother received before, so you are already polarized from that moment on. You may even not like this food and like that one more. Interesting, the metabolism has been changed, and then with culture, this metabolism can continue to one side or the other, and there is plasticity. It can change. Okay, that's scientific, very cute. Okay. But the child, when it is born, is pure body territory within the mother's womb as well. It will use the body territory that it perceives to be the whole. And the baby has the cognitive tools and perceives himself as a whole. Okay, he has the cognitive tools, which are few, not many. He doesn't have language, right? So this baby perceives himself as a whole. He perceives himself as the caregiver, the mother, the father, the things that are around him, the toys. He perceives himself as a whole, the food. So the baby, he perceives himself as this whole body territory. Okay. But until 18 months after the child is born, he is going through a language process. In some cultures, ours, in every culture that was colonized by Europe, and in many others, this child will be the first to believe. Me, I as a belief. There are some Amerindian cultures that don't have the self. They only have a group of people. They only have the we. It's also a belief. But let's not talk about the I. The I is a belief. When you have the self, the body territory fades a little. You have a blind spot. You have a belief, I, and the body territory fades a little. It's interesting to talk about this. I'll come back to this in a bit. Sometimes it's very sophisticated because, man, I'm questioning you in yourself, questioning myself in myself. When I'm doing something in fruition, in this metacognition and fruition and body territory, suddenly I polarize myself and say, I'm going to hurt myself. Look, I have to take care of myself. So the self is already a belief on top of this fruition. Sometimes the self can come in and end the creativity that you were having when you were painting a picture, when you were playing, when you were doing something extremely creative. The self can come and interrupt the process of creativity. This happens. So why? Because it's a belief, yes, but this belief is also a resource. It will help you in something. The self helps, just like the we helps. The we will have after this. Our culture still places a lot of emphasis on this. This is yours, this is mine, this is hers. So you have the me, the him, the her. You have these differences and you polarize yourself in a belief. Since infancy, you polarize the child into the me, mine, yours, mine, then the us, our family, and the us is us, the whites us, the blacks us, the Japanese us, the men us, the women us, blah blah blah. The use is another belief. That brings a community together, isolating them from the use, belief. Both have biases. And we will address this a little bit. There is a concept that I will try to convey to you, which I will come back to in a moment. I will start, as I sent you a text about the state, I will talk a little bit about the state, and then I will return to this concept of these two beliefs again, me and us. And I will try to improve this idea a little bit, this vision that I am having in this business. First, in the text I sent you about the state, the most important thing for me is the primal definition of the state. Remember the book I read about the awakening of everything? An anthropologist and an archaeologist talking about all the old ancient texts, texts that spoke of the Ice Age. Not even those texts spoke of democracy and freedom. It was not until after contact with the Amerindians that people began to speak of freedom and democracy. Even Freud, it was only after his friend came to talk to him about things that were happening to the Amerindians, which was the territorial body, that Freud began to speak of oceanic consciousness. He had never thought of oceanic consciousness. Oceanic consciousness came from the Amerindians. It came from this land where we are, from the American continent. That is where the oceanic consciousness that Freud speaks of comes from. Why am I saying this? This book, The Awakening of Everything, also talks about what the state is. And in the definition of the state, for me, and in the largest and most primal, strongest concept, taking away the Greeks, taking away the European prejudices, taking away the European bias, the state is the guardian of the integral well-being of the living beings of a territory where it administers. So what is the state? Laws and rules that protect the living beings of that territory. That protects. Is the state like that? No, it's not like that. The state is in the European bias. The state is there to bite, to attack, to collect taxes. Do you understand? It's inverted. It's inverted because our concepts are distorted. The reality in human nature is that the state is an integral well-being of living beings in the territory where this state administers. Is this happening in Brazil? No, we are deforesting, we are killing other living beings. In other words, the state is not fulfilling its intrinsic value as a state because it is copying the state that Europe defined as being a state. Very confusing, right? So for me, the state is the integral well-being of living beings in a territory where the state administers. The unit of the state is the citizen. The state is made by men, humans. The unit of the state is the citizen, or better, because man made it, citizen, or the living beings that are in that place. But since man has more emphasis because he made the rules, he is ahead. Characteristics of a good ruler. Before I told you that a good president, a good mayor, a good governor had to have a maternal spirit. I'm going to correct this maternal spirit. He has to have a sense of body and territory. A president, a governor, a mayor, he has to dilute himself in the territory where he is. He has to lose the self and he has to lose the we. These are two beliefs. He cannot redeem the self at some point, not because of me, because of my money, because, no, he is a governor. So he has to, the administrative policy that he will implement is to be the territorial body. So he is the territory. Being the territory, he does not have the self. Every time he has the self, it is a belief that he has at that moment. Me, my money, my family, me and us. So a good political act is you, the characteristic of the ruler. He really is the territorial body and follows the constitution, what all human beings have defined as the best thing to do in that environment. And the constitutions always try to preserve ecology. Remember what I said in the other leave, that the Bribri people of Costa Rica say that prosperity is living in an environment that is ecologically balanced. There is no trash, there is no pollution, or if there is, the system restores itself. It is a cyclical economy, and that is prosperity. It is not the accumulation of money, the accumulation of goods. Prosperity is this synchronicity with nature. That is the Bribri of Costa Rica. This different vision of what prosperity is, which I adopt, is very interesting. The third is the cultural bias. The bias of culture is regulation. We have to have, a good government has to regulate based on, make rules and regulations based on scientific evidence. On scientific evidence. A good government has to be based on scientific evidence. And the social man, which Europe spoke of, and which many philosophers speak of, is a lie. It's a lie. Social man says that man is evil by nature, that he has to impose rules on him, otherwise he becomes evil by nature. That's a lie. This book, The Awakening of Everything, showed that this is a lie. In several cultures, even without these rules, without these norms, the rules and norms are part of the state that is the well-being of that collective. That's natural. There are other mammals, not humans. That's natural. So this cultural bias, we have to remove the European bias from social man, from economic homo, and remove this belief of me and us as well. Sometimes you may get a little confused when I say belief of us, but sometimes you say, we are atheists, we are Christians, we have the truth. That's belief of us. Understand the belief of ours makes you get stuck on a concept of a collective that sometimes isn't even that collective. This child gets stuck. You give a lot of bias. You can't see some things if you are attached to the belief of ours for real or to the belief of the self. You also have the limitation of seeing the whole through the belief, like I'm going to leave in the belief of the self. There are times when you are doing things, an attitude, a walk, a talk, a doing something, and you don't have the feeling of self. And at that moment you are diluted. That is the fruition. In this fruition, you can have metacognition. What am I thinking? You can think about what you think. That's what metacognition is. And then you leave it diluted in the body territory. So you have an outside view of yourself, more or less that. And another thing that is also important in governance is inclusive governance, secular and scientific, respecting the interdependence of living beings, respecting the water mine, respecting the forest, respecting the animals of the forest, respecting those who are on your side, and respecting the other human who thinks completely differently from you, and is part of the same body territory. But it is not part of my us, which is here from the Pachamama culture. I believe in the Pachamama divinity or in the nativity of the Omama, of the Yanomamis, I believe. So whoever believes in this thing is part of this community, of this us. No, no, calm down. Body and territory. Body and territory and governance inclusive. I included all living beings within a secular idea. Laika is being able to feel different religions without judging them, without prejudice. It is not tolerating another religion. It is knowing how to feel it. It's more or less like this. You go to the pharmacy, I don't like this medicine, I don't like that one. Okay, if you've tried the medicines, the differences between them, this is for this is for that. Religion is also like that. This religion helps you with this, that religion helps you with that. No, that doesn't work because that is a sin. Calm down, calm down. Each religion provokes different feelings in you. The truth is science with evidence and has nothing to do with belief. Neither the belief of I nor the belief of us. And the us will be linked to a religion, an ideology, a political party, or a culture, or a family. So good. Fifth, education for collective consciousness. You have to educate people in this body territory and know that when these people and these children, when the I and the we appear, they are beliefs. And what matters most is this collective where we are all seeking the well-being of all of us. What's cool to me is the definition of democracy of the state, the well-being of all for the benefit of each. If it's democracy, the wills and desires of the majority without detriment to the wills and desires of each individual. Democracy is a negotiation, it's not an imposition. Because sometimes there are some leaders who say, wow, the people believe in that. Hold on, if there's one of the people who doesn't believe in that, what's the definition of the people? We are already a belief. We of the people is your belief. Saying what the people are and what the people believe. There's bias, errors, serious errors, okay? And education for innovation. If we can educate our young people for innovation, you'll invest a lot in science and education, and you'll have leadership in research and innovation. I mean, by having leadership in research and innovation, we'll learn new things about our concepts, including our beliefs and our biases and our pleasures and pains. So that's important. And the energy transition. The energy transition is very important. Mainly adopt practices of the cyclical economy. What I consume becomes waste, which is raw material for me to consume again in another way. And it becomes waste, which is raw material that I consume again. So there is no waste. It is zero waste. Zero waste is the thing. It is the cyclical economy. Zero waste is pollution. I am not doing that, but then I compensate myself with that side, and I compensate myself not from a forested area 1,000 kilometers away. No, in this 1 square kilometer area, the monoxide gases end up here in the air. It is compensated by this, and this in this area. It is not one area that compensates for the other. What good is an area, a dam full of water and another desert area? What will compensate for the desert? There is no water. The dam is full of water and does not compensate for anything. Each area will have its own intelligence. Each area has its own state of well-being for the beings that inhabit it. So the energy transmission is good for this. I'm going to go back to I, and now I'm going to put forward an idea that is a new idea, but it's quite sophisticated, okay? And I'm going to try to make some gestures to pass it on to you, okay? Okay? The first thing we're going to talk about is that we have a victory system, which here is the prefrontal, okay? Sometimes it lateralizes a little when it involves parts of movements or spatialities, but it's more of a prefrontal. I believe, and this gave a great insight, the prefrontal that you have is an inhibitory system that will control and will keep you in a belief. That's saying, I'm saying that this prefrontal will keep you in a belief. When you are in a belief, you have a belief bias. And what belief is that? It could be the I and it could be the we. What does it matter? They are both beliefs. It will keep you in a belief. What's new here? The inhibitory system. You inhibit something, yes, but it will inhibit the following thing. This will be new. Suddenly, I'm even talking to some neuroscientists about this, and they like the idea. We have to test it. We have to do scientific experiments. We have to make it happen to see if what I'm saying is true. When you're in the inhibitory system, you're in a belief. In the inhibitory system, in a belief, I'm going to maintain a fixed belief. Belief for me has to do with emotional ballast. Belief for me has to do with this emotional program that you're in at that moment. And this emotional program, remember that I told you that neuroscience talks about episodic memories which involve emotion. But if it's a more Amerindian thing, especially Yanomami, they say Piyutop, the symbol, that connects to the heart. Do you understand? The semiotic symbology that connects to the heart, more or less like that, okay? And for me too, the soul. What is the soul? It's an idea that's connected in your heart and your emotions. That's the soul. So you always have a soul. Okay, a soul. And your prefrontal, your inhibitory system, holds you to that soul. So your inhibitory system holds your soul. How many souls do you have? You always have a soul. Sometimes. Throughout the day, thousands, thousands, okay? It's not even tens. I think it's thousands, okay? So the inhibitory system will hold your soul. I'll use more neuroscientific language. The inhibitory system will hold you in a specific emotion. I'm in the classroom learning. I'm going to hold on to the fact that I'm here learning. So when I hold on to the fact that I'm learning, everything I hear is something that has a symbolism that he calls semantics, words and sights and smells. There's semantics in my brain. It always stays in the cortex, always on the surface of the brain. None of it sinks to my emotions or to the base of the brain, because my inhibitory process holds the information that I'm seeing and perceiving holds on to that part of the cerebral cortex. But let's suppose that I'm passing through a place and I'm holding on to that emotion and that belief, and I see a snake, for example. The snake comes, the symbol appears, and has already activated the emotional part. It's already changed the soul. You've already changed your belief. Oh, but I can go back to the same emotion again. Okay, you managed to go back. That's fine. But you noticed that you were changed because you reached the emotional part. And quickly, very fast. So the emotional part sometimes is hijacked quickly. You leave a belief. The one who is holding this emotion is the prefrontal. So here you are controlling your belief. And what do you control? Everything they are talking about is semantic. Semantic, semantic, reason, logic, semantic. Reason and logic are beautiful because sometimes many people get lost thinking that reason and logic is you within a belief, thinking rationally about what you are hearing. Within a belief, you already have a bias. Reason and logic will only work to justify that you are right. Because you have bias, it's a belief. Belief will use illogical reasoning to justify that it is right. Did you notice? So this is important. You have this part that is the inhibitory system, which locks you into a specific belief at that moment of learning, or at that moment of doing your worship, your religious celebration, okay? At that moment, you don't lose focus in that space. That space is configured for that type of thing, that type of emotion, and the semantic memories that come. You process. You won't flow your belief. You won't vary your belief. But suddenly someone comes to talk to you and starts talking. Look, put on some background music, put on a smell, put on a different food, and suddenly your belief that was about wanting to learn math, now it's, wow, I want to know more about this flower, about this fruit, about this smell, about this taste. The belief changed at that moment because your interest changed, and it changed with emotions. There you have another semantic jargon for you to process with logic and reason. Did you notice? Logic and reason will process in different ways depending on your emotion, depending on your belief, depending on whether you are me or whether you are we. We are always, when you believe in something, I believe that this party is better, that this ideology is better, that this belief is better. I believe that this is the best path to follow. So this is we. Now, when you say, I defend myself, I have the defense, I am being attacked, there is no we, there is only an I. The difference with we is when you believe in we together with other people. The I believes alone. The I has a fantastic spirituality and it believes it can believe alone. For example, when you were 2 or 3 years old up to 4 or 5, sometimes you had a lot of problems at home with your mother, with your father, with everything, or even internal problems in your body, a little cramp or muscle contractions that are difficult to resolve in your head. Then you sleep and dream and have night terrors, a heavy dream, because your abstraction will solve the problem that the body is having in a visual way. Okay, this is something I have because it's something you have, I have, and we don't have the same thing together. When we have the same thing together, that's us. The problem with us is that we believe the same, we are followers, and when we are followers, we stop being followers. This being is more efficient because we are believing, but when it is me, it is also stopping being this subjective idea of believing, okay? So this is something I wanted to leave with you. It may be a little confusing, but this is the best idea I tried to convey. So this system that we have every time you are in a place, okay? Another important thing about this editorial system is that when you know how to control it, when you know how to change your beliefs, you become much better. So what happens? You're like this. You woke up early in the morning and suddenly you say, I have to do this, this, and this. I have to do it. You tasked yourself with doing something. No, you already got up. You're already doing something and the self didn't show up. And sometimes when the self doesn't show up, sometimes the performance is a little better because there was no self. You only do what your brain is used to doing, what you learned, you waste. You keep doing it and it doesn't have much weight. But suddenly you put the self in and suddenly the self gets tired, the self wants a higher salary, or the self is angry, or the self doesn't want to do it anymore. I have intense fights with myself every now and then, man. I don't want to do it, right? I'm not going to do the live today. I'm not going to do this work today. I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do it. And then they say, calm down. You're going to have to go out. Do it. Go back to the deep meaning of what I'm feeling. Then you'll see that you have a problem with colic. You have an egg. You're hungry or you're too anxious. If you eat, it'll be worse. You'll eat too much, right? So understand this meaning. Requires the governance that I talked about with you, the governance of the government outside, which is the mayor, the governor, the president, but there is the government that is yours. Here inside you, there is the executive power, the legislative power, the judiciary. Let's go. The executive power is what does, what thinks, what elaborates. The legislative power is what plans your tomorrow. It plans your tomorrow. For example, it is a perfect adjusting things. So you have this in your life, and then if you are going to put this system inside you and you are going to manage it with this process of knowing that prosperity itself is you synchronized with the environment where you are with your family, with your animals, with your forest, with your process, with your street, with the cars that are around this symbiotic process. And then you will see that you and those around you are generating little trash, little pollution, oops, prosperity. Here we don't generate trash, prosperous, prosperous. And no, the trash here goes out every day. Every day it goes out twice a day. Here we don't see trash. Yes, we don't see trash, but it generates a lot of trash. That is not prosperity, that is trash. Creation of trash. And put your mind in another place with another self inventing something like, look, here is the body and here is the free spirit. The spirit is always the ideas that are really loose and are almost semantic ideas. They are ideas that are in the cerebral cortex. When these ideas deepen in your emotion, you become a soul. You become that idea. You take that idea. And this is the structure that I wanted to pass on to you today. You have governance in your own body. The mind comes from the body. Even so, the mind comes, and when a belief of me or us or something else appears, there is bias. What is bias? Everything you hear and read and see and experience will be in accordance with the belief that you are experiencing at that moment. This is bias. So nothing you hear will be contradictory to your belief, because the belief is listen to everything and harmonize it with the belief. Do you understand? Take all the semantics, your entire brain, all the perceptions, and make it harmonious with the belief that you have. So we have to use the belief, not be the belief. I always told you about Yami, the child, the baby begins to imitate. He imitates movements, he imitates words, he imitates then his own beliefs. He starts to imitate his parents' food and drinks. And after the time these beliefs are imitated, faith appears. It has high performance and performance in what he was imitating in the beginning. And now he opens up to a process of greater creativity. What we need to do is provide scientific education to our young people and open everyone's minds and understand the moment when belief comes, which is the moment of I, the moment of we, the moment of look. This is not scientific, but it is pleasant. Yes, so you enjoy it, but you don't lose it. This is to believe, it is not to be. Politicians nowadays always want someone to follow, 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 follow. Religious politicians love followers, so they don't want you to be a free being. They want you to be a follower to get votes, offerings, and tithes. So you are not a free being. So when you become a free being, you go back to that being in the pure mind, in the original mind, and now I will be me, now ours. Either I am in ours or I am in this belief. If I am in this belief, everything I see ratifies the belief that I am. Guys, that's what I wanted to leave you with this week. Until next week.